Welcome back to Perkins Pipes. Got the gorgeous, oh so gorgeous, cream and crimson, I'm going to call it, Chacom bent billiard here. I call it cream and crimson because of my alma mater, Indiana University, and I purchased this beautiful pipe at the excellent brick and mortar store, the Briar and the Burley in Bloomington, Indiana, home of Indiana University. And I use colors, technically are not red and white, but they are cream and crimson. So the cream and crimson pipe, just look at the beautiful, beautiful pipe that this is. It has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about, but I just wanted to have this one out. Folks, as always, let's get this guy lit. Let's get to talking. There's something I love to do that it seems many people do not. And more than that, many people actually despise it, fear it, and would avoid it at all costs. I am, of course, talking about public speaking. I love it. I love public speaking. Partly, I don't know if I love it because I'm a teacher, or part of the reason I'm a teacher is because I love public speaking. I think probably the love of public speaking grew out of my work as a teacher. Because I'm obviously talking, multiple classes a day, 5 days a week, in front of people. I don't know that all teachers, though, necessarily then like to go out and do other public speaking events, but I do. I crave it. I enjoy it immensely. Whether I'm preaching, talking about Jesus, if I'm talking about education, talking about one of my books, book talk, talking about classics, Latin and Greek stuff, I love it. So, I thought I'd share a little bit about what I love about public speaking and maybe offer a few tips for those who have reason to do it. There's three acts to the play of public speaking, usually, and I thoroughly love all three. The first act, kind of the main act, is the talk itself. You're in front of an audience, small team of people at work, large auditorium filled of people, and you are talking about something. I love it. I love to tell stories. I love to connect people with ideas, and that's what public speaking is to me. Public speaking is teaching. Teaching is public speaking. They go back and forth, quite frankly. Sometimes you just think teaching is a form of public speaking, but on a smaller scale, maybe 20, 25 people in the room. I love sharing what I know, not in the sense of, hey, look at the big head on Steve, look how much he knows. No, I just like to share stuff, ideas, information, whatever. The second act of the play, which I thoroughly enjoy as well, is the Q&A time that very often accompanies public speaking. I love it because I love getting questions. Obviously, I don't know what they're going to be. And I love thinking on my feet. I love connecting this with that, seeing what comes to mind in the moment. And then I love the third act, which is very often talking with people after the event in small one-on-one, one-on-two little conversations, maybe a meet and greet after an event. And the persona is very, very different, where on stage or whatever the venue is, it's bigger, it's maybe bigger hand gestures, and you're moving from one side of the stage to the other. And then one-on-one, you're just talking with somebody as you would over coffee or over a pipe. Well, I enjoy that intimate connection there. So I enjoy all three acts of the play, as it were. So let's talk about, especially the first two. I think we can all handle the third act, right? Talking with somebody one-on-one, just casual conversation. But the first two acts, really seem to frighten some people. Now, you may need to do this, whether it's in a business setting, a presentation, at a conference. You get called on to do this. Maybe, again, some church venue, some sports banquet talk, whatever. There's a variety of reasons to do this. And advice I've given students for years, and I follow it myself simply because, well, first of all, I don't really know that I know any other way. But be honest. Be honest. Be authentic. And people always say, oh, you got to be your authentic self. What do you mean by that? Exactly what you see in these videos. I've said before, I don't script these videos. I've done interviews and podcasts and so forth. I don't script that stuff. I like the freewheeling. I like the interaction because I want to keep it honest. And while I reference three acts, almost as if this were a play, I'm not playing a part. All right? I'm not playing the part of the person giving the TED Talk. And this is what you should look like, and this is what you should do. No, that's fake. People see through fake. They certainly don't relate to fake very well. To me, public speaking is a conversation, but in a larger venue. So, at the risk of sounding, I don't know, from the 70s, the 80s, whenever we first kind of started hearing this expression, you got to keep it real. I think you've got to know what you're talking about. You should have a command of your facts. If you know that you need to use a word or a name and you're not sure how to pronounce it, okay, I'm going to be a touch sarcastic here. There's this wonderful thing called the internet. Look it up. I've heard people who are in a public speaking venue and the speaker will come up on a word and say, now I got to tell you folks, I really don't know how to pronounce this word. And I'm thinking, well, why didn't you do the preparation? Why didn't you do the work? No one's saying you've got to get it perfectly right. That's fine. But part of your preparation is to look that up. Now, I really don't speak French. I had a little bit of reading knowledge of French in graduate school, but I really don't have French. Every once in a while, I'll have a French name in a talk that I'm giving. I need to look that up, or ask a friend of mine I got a friend who's from France who teaches French here in the United States, in Indiana, and I might have to ask him, how do you pronounce this? Right? I feel that I owe that to the people I'm speaking to. So know your stuff. Keep it honest. Keep it real. Don't put on a show. And I know you heard this before. But I think people get the most nervous because, oh, they're looking at me. What will they think of me? Does my voice sound good? Or does my voice sound squeaky or strange or whatever? You're making it about you. You are the purveyor of the information, right? You're the communicator of the information. But the talk really isn't about you. The talk is about whatever the topic is. Make it about that. Direct their attention to the thing, to the topic. Then it's not about you, and you're less likely to be as nervous worrying about what people are thinking about you. I think you got to practice. Whenever I've done extended, and we're talking, I've done 45-minute kind of one-man shows where I have been performing a character when I did historical reenactment. And I was really in character, and I'm talking for 45 minutes. You guys are not going to believe this, but a little squirrel has just popped up on our deck. Oh, I wish you could see him. He's carrying some little piece of fruit around in his mouth. My daughter calls him a fluffy. She calls the squirrels little fluffies. I don't know. Oh my goodness, he hopped up in my wife's flower box here. I think he's probably going to look for a place to bury this thing. This is maybe not a piece of fruit. It may be some sort of a nut. But boy, he is in the flower box and he is looking around. I wish you guys could see this. There we go. Got a little bit of him. Plus, that's going to be the video footage my wife uses against him because she's going to say, you were burying stuff in my flower pots and my flower boxes. So I've got video evidence on you, buddy. Okay, back to business. I do practice. I was recently giving a talk around my book, The Golden Waffle Principle, Finding Meaning in Teaching. And a friend was at the event and asked me later, he says, so did you work on that ahead of time? I said, yeah, I put together an outline. I would then practice where I would really do the entire talk, a few key sections that I wanted to have memorized, maybe a longish quotation. Other parts I knew were going to be a story, and I just needed to have the basic facts there, and then I would, riff on the story in the moment. So I do practice. And like I say, you want to focus on the topic, not yourself. So I think that'll help. Now, when it comes to the second piece, the Q&A and getting questions you don't know what's going to happen, that's the part that would also scare a lot of people. They say, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Most people, I think, if you have been fair and honest with them during the talk, sounds like somebody's cutting wood somewhere. If you've been fair and honest during the talk, they're going to be a decent audience and asking questions. They're not going to try to come up with gotcha questions. So, they're going to ask you something that you know about. Respond as you would just over coffee or a pipe or tea with somebody. They ask you something that you don't know about. See if you can put something together in the moment. You're a smart person. You wouldn't be giving the talk, right? Whatever it is, if you weren't. You might put something together in the moment. Or, the classic, that's a good question. I never really thought about that before. That's one I'm really going to have to think about. Just be honest. You don't BS something. I mean, again, that's fakery. People are going to see through that. Now, if somebody does ask the gotcha question or trying to do something to embarrass you, which I got to be honest, in my career, I've never had that. Keep it civil. Keep it civil. Try to turn it back to something serious. I'm just making something up here right on the spot, but let's say, you've been talking about God. Somebody comes up with okay, well, let me ask you this question. If God is all powerful, could he create a rock so big that even he couldn't lift it? Okay, that's a gotcha kind of question. It's one of those silly kinds of questions, and you could try to turn it back around to something serious. Say, well, that question has been asked before. That's a common question. And it's really looking at the logic of what it means to be omnipotent, right? And if God is all-powerful, then he should be able to create anything, he could create a rock that he couldn't lift, but that would mean that he's not omnipotent anymore. And the challenge with a question like that is, and so you're explaining this to the audience is hearing you, and you're bringing it back to something serious. You don't humiliate or embarrass the person who might have been trying to humiliate and embarrass you. So, it's an interesting parlor game kind of question, but it really has to do with the question of omnipotence and what that really means. And what we're really talking about here this evening is the nature of God. And what does it say that an all-powerful God was willing to undergo death because of his love for you? So even a gotcha kind of question, you can turn around back to something meaningful. Anyhow, a few tips on public speaking. Quick look at our squirrel over there. And folks, as Malcolm Guite likes to say, I do these little things in order at last to do nothing. Or as I like to say in Latin, Parva ago ut tandem, nihil agam. Have a wonderful day.